What is a blueprint and why is it so costly?
Good morning, Brian, Ainsley, and Steve. So the blueprint is just a first step that Senate Democrats took to get to the passage of this massive $3.5 trillion budget bill. Now, it was straight down party lines, 50-49. One Republican was absent. The partisan vote, by the way, leaving party leaders at odds on the passage. Watch.
Despite this long road we've taken, we have finally reached the finish line. Of course, we Democrats believe we need to do much more.
They want to put behind this budget resolution, read like somebody walked across the rotunda to the House and handed the squad a pen and piece of paper.
As debate begins, here's what we expect to be in this massive bill: free preschool and community college, an expansion of child care and Medicare, climate change initiatives like polluter fees on imports, and higher taxes on wealthy businesses and corporations. It could also allocate funds to address what they call, quote, the lawful permanent status for qualified immigrants. Now, this after the Senate already passed the $1.2 trillion infrastructure package. You're looking here at the 19 GOP senators who handed President Biden his long sought after bipartisan victory. Now, that bill includes $110 billion for roads, bridges, and major projects, $66 billion for rails, $65 billion for broadband. But it also includes $2.7 billion for achieving digital equity, $2 million for bee-friendly landscaping, $500 million for healthy streets, including reflective sidewalks and tree planting, and $7.5 billion for electric vehicle charging stations. That is why Senator Hawley is among those who opposed it.
This isn't an infrastructure bill. This is a radical left woke politics bill that has stuff like gender identity mandates in it, the radical equity agenda, the Green New Deal. That's all in this bill.
Now, a little later, we expect the president to meet with mayors and governors to talk the infrastructure bill, and expect now questions about this $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation package. Brian, Ainsley, Steve?
All right. Now, Griff, it's kind of complicated. Yesterday, they passed a bill for $1 trillion. That's the real infrastructure. But with this human infrastructure thing, they simply passed a resolution which unlocks reconciliation, right?
That's right. So the quick 411 on how this works: to pass a bill, you have to have at least 10 Republicans to break the filibuster, 60 votes. They got that with those 19 Republicans on the infrastructure $1.2 trillion deal. But when it came to this massive $3.5 trillion behemoth of human infrastructure, 0 Republicans were on board. So they had to go to that budget reconciliation rule where they throw a lot of things in there and pass it along a simple majority. All they need is 51. In this case, they passed the framework, which means the end result is all but a done deal. They will pass that one, the $3.5 trillion bill, by a simple majority, and it looks like they will have that as well.
Griff, any indication what the House will do?
Well, Speaker Pelosi, remember, demanded that before she will consider the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, she wanted both bills, including that $3.5 trillion behemoth. And so now it appears that she is getting her will to get it sent over. The question is whether or not there are enough moderate Democrats ultimately in the House that might complicate the math, assuming no Republicans are on board.
And the big hope would be the parliamentarian steps in and says, sober up. Some of this stuff has nothing to do with budget, which means it doesn't qualify for reconciliation. That parliamentarian's got to be strong and cannot be intimidated. They will try to intimidate her.
Elizabeth Madonna will yet again be the popular person in Washington. We'll see exactly what she decides to do.
You got it, Griff. We'll check in with you again. Meanwhile, yesterday was stunning news. First, we had the governor of New York, the most high-profile governor in the country, have his lawyer come out and step by step, painfully go through every single one of his accusers and more and talk about how they were wrong. And then in comes Governor Cuomo, this address live. He comes out and says, first off, I'm innocent. I may be a victim of my times. The world is so poisonous. I will step aside. Here's a little of that.
In a highly political matter like this, there are many agendas and there are many motivations at play. If anyone thought otherwise, they would be naive. Government needs to perform. It is a matter of life and death, government operations. And wasting energy on distractions is the last thing that state government should be doing. The best way I can help now is if I step aside, and therefore that's what I'll do, because I work for you. And doing the right thing is doing the right thing for you.
He apologized for being insensitive. He said this was generational and cultural shifts. He liked to kiss and hug. He liked to call women honey and sweetheart. 70% of New York's registered voters said that he should go. He's moving out of the governor's mansion in 2 weeks. No word yet on where he will go. He doesn't own another house.
And in 2 weeks, Kathy Hochul then will take over.
First female governor.
Absolutely. The state has soaring crime and is trying to dig out from underneath the coronavirus pandemic. She's got a lot of work ahead of her. Everybody should wish her the best because it's a tough situation. Meanwhile, after the Senate passed the $1 trillion infrastructure bill yesterday, the president went out. It was a big day for him because it was a big win for his party. And he was asked by Ed O'Keefe of CBS about the job that Mr. Cuomo had done as governor. And the president said this.
One of the Democrats through the years that you spoke with about infrastructure the most was Andrew Cuomo. How would you assess his 10.5 years as governor of the state?
Thought he's done a hell of a job. And I mean, both on everything from access to voting to infrastructure, the whole range of things. That's why it's so sad.
Can you really say that he has done, quote, hell of a job if he's accused of sexually harassing women?
Look, you asked two different questions. I asked the substantive, should he remain as governor is one question. And women should be believed when they make accusations that are able to, on the face of them, make sense and investigate it. They're investigated, and the judgment was made that what they said was correct. That's one thing. The question is, did he do a good job on infrastructure? That was the question. He did.
And the press event was about infrastructure, and that's why he circled around.
Did a hell of a job. He has to say that because he wants to say he's made bad personal choices, but as a Democrat, he's a good person. He's made good choices there.
Right, but by the way, if you're around the country, I know you don't have time to delve into how he runs New York. You listen to him, you think he's doing a great job. He isn't. He has wasted so much money. The Buffalo Billion Project for $15 million. He wanted to make Syracuse a film hub that fell flat on its face. He was going to get rid of a millionaire's tax. He kept it in place. The millionaires are leaving in great numbers. The hydrofracking that was supposed to revitalize upstate New York, which is like Iowa, it's very rural. He decides to kill that, even though
that would have brought so much money to our state. Taxes would have gone down.
They had people moving in, starting to build up businesses, and he just killed it, even though an environmental study alleviated it. Don't let anyone kid you. His sparring with this idiot mayor we have hurt the New Yorkers because the message was so mixed when we needed the clearest message possible during the pandemic.
The nursing homes.
And
so many people died.
Arguably is bigger than everything.
That's right.
And there are still criminal investigations into that. Correct. So the FBI is looking into it. So he is not off the hook yet, and they still could, the assembly could still impeach him, in which case he would never be able to run for
and
public
criminal
office
charges again for what these 11 women are claiming.
Absolutely. He still has legal peril straight ahead. Janice Dean and Ron Kim both called for his resignation, and they got it yesterday. How do they feel the day after? They're going to be joining us about half an hour from right now, right here on the Fox News channel.
Both of them lost loved ones due to the nursing home crisis. All right, coming up, an Oklahoma school board member is apologizing after making this comment about maskless students.
Because it's just not okay for kids to commit murder by coming to school without a mask.
Dr. Mark Siegel says we should mandate vaccines for teachers and not mask the
prosecutors reveal the brothers accused in the fatal shooting of Chicago police officer Ella French were pulled over for expired plates. Monty Morgan and Eric Morgan are being held without bond. Prosecutors say Monty, on the left, admitted to firing his gun at officers during the traffic stop. Officer French was shot in the head. Another officer was shot in the shoulder and eye. He remains in the hospital with a bullet lodged in his brain. Community leaders in Oakland, California are calling for Governor Gavin Newsom to declare a state of emergency over a recent spike in violent crime. Most recently, a man was shot and wounded in broad daylight while trying to stop robbers from attacking two women.
Citizens live in a state of continuous fear for our safety, well-being, livelihoods, and future.
The man who was shot is in stable condition, but the president of Oakland's Chinatown Chamber of Commerce says the community, quote, is still under attack. He's calling for more law enforcement and surveillance cameras. Look at your screen. A massive Amazon delivery leaves hundreds of boxes stacked as tall as a house in Florida. The huge pile going viral on TikTok. One user joking, quote, when that PPP loan kicks in. The recipient of the packages is believed to be an Amazon seller who may be getting business packages and personal packages delivered to their home. All I have to say, that is my dream right there, to walk home and see all those packages in my door. It would be like Christmas.
Yeah, but who breaks up the boxes?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't want to open all those boxes.
Yeah, okay. I didn't get that far in my thoughts. I was just like, what could be in them?
It's exciting.
That looks like one of those mistakes where the kid actually somehow got a hold of the phone and started ordering stuff.
Or someone ordered the entire wedding registry or baby registry.
Yep.
All right, Jillian.
Imagine they were all shoes, Ainsley.
Oh, I know, it'd be fun. You know, I'd rather dresses. Are you a shoe girl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Just right shoes.
What are you? Are you dresses or shoes,
I just want the right shoe from the display. I will answer the break.
The right shoe.
That's what I want to buy. One shoe from the display.
All right. Meanwhile, Jillian, thank you. Let's talk a little bit about Loudoun County. We know that has been ground zero for, there has been a lot of outcry from parents over what is going on being taught to the children of Loudoun County. You are about to see an absolute profile in courage. A fifth grade teacher by the name of Laura Morris was so upset she appeared before the school board. She broke into tears and she said, as a teacher, she would not honor the transgender pronoun policy because of her faith. And then she did something that no one saw coming. She wanted to speak before the board to do this.
Within the last year, I was told in one of my so-called equity trainings that white, Christian, able-bodied females currently have the power in our schools, and that, quote, this has to change. Clearly, you've made your point. You no longer value me or many other teachers you've employed in this county. So since my contract outlines the power that you have over my employment in Loudoun County Public Schools, I thought it necessary to resign in front of you.
She said, I quit.
Just quit.
I quit. I quit your policies. I quit your training. She talked about an email that the superintendent sent out to all of the teachers that said, these are our policies. These are our guidelines. You have to stick to these, and you're not allowed to speak out against them. And if you do, here's a form that you can fill out. If you hear one of your colleagues speaking out, even in their personal lives, about what's being taught here, fill out this form and send it to us. Basically snitch on them.
Right, which is amazing, too, because the governor, the candidates running on the Democratic side, and the governor himself, Northam, sitting, says there is no such thing as critical race theory in Virginia. I watched him interview with I listened to his interview with Major Garrett over the weekend. Ian Pryor was one of the first to come public when he found out what was happening to his kids in school, reacted this way to the resignation.
And the sad thing is that this teacher had to resign. Meanwhile, you have members of the school board that engage in plots against parents, that harass parents, and not a single member of the school board will call on, this particular school board member to resign. It's just cowardice. And for this teacher to go up there and do what she did, that's the exact opposite. That's bravery. That's standing up for what she believes in, and I applaud her.
And something that the Loudoun County School Board did was they restricted the ability for parents to speak. So last night, simultaneously, the adults who were not able to speak had their own town hall, essentially, talking about what was going on. She, however, the teacher, was able to get in front of the school board.
Yeah, she said teachers feel very intimidated. They're scared if they speak out against it, they'll lose their jobs.
Yeah, the parents got together in somebody's backyard, and they had their own meeting.
They did. John Tiggs, we told you his story a while back. He was actually arrested in June before the school board meeting. He's going to be coming up on our telecast today to talk about what is going on out in Loudoun County. Meanwhile, let's go to Oklahoma, where a school board member has issued an apology after she sparked absolute outrage with this comment about kids not wearing masks.
It's just not okay for kids to commit murder by coming to school without a mask. And when it comes down to it, it's possible. They will cause a death of another child because they come to school without a mask. That's not okay.
And she has since walked that back. She said her emotions got the best of her, and she apologized. Meanwhile, in a new op-ed, our next guest argues we should mandate vaccines for teachers, not masks for kids. Fox News medical contributor Dr. Mark Siegel joins us right now. Doctor, good morning to you.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
We're doing okay, but a lot of people are confused about vaccine mandates and mask mandates and things like that. Right now, it is pretty clear we have no information about masks on kids. So for people to say you got to wear a mask, the science is not there. The NIH, the CDC have not devoted money to it. You say don't worry about the masks on the kids, worry about the adults in the room, right?
Let me spell this out. First of all, you just set it up with this, I understand, emotional threat about murder. Let me tell you, what really is going to put kids' lives in danger is the whole idea of schools being shut. Last year, we saw a tremendous amount of anxiety, depression, and yes, suicide among children who were shut out of schools and had remote learning. So all this jockeying, and I call the mask issue a diversionary tactic. Let's have a culture war over masks. Look, if your child will tolerate a mask, go right ahead and try it. I think there's some value, but against the Delta variant, Steve, as you just pointed out, it hasn't been studied. Last year, there were plenty of studies that showed across the country that there was very low amount of spread in schools among children. But you know where children spread COVID-19? Outside of schools. So yes, let schools do whatever mitigating measures they can do to try to control spread. They're a much better place for our kids to be. And as far as my point in the op-ed about vaccination, how dare a teacher or a teacher's representative body start to talk about what little children should do who don't have a right to stand, who don't have the ability to stand up for themselves, and they're going to walk into the school unvaccinated, putting children at risk, and then say children are putting them at risk? They got that backwards. It's parents and teachers and staff at schools that have to be vaccinated in order to make the school safe.
Absolutely. It's interesting. The president had a Q&A after he addressed infrastructure yesterday from the East Room of the White House. One of the things, when asked about COVID and masks and what's going on in various states, things like that, he said kids are getting sick, they're getting infected by unvaccinated adults. And once again, he has made it very clear he feels everybody should get a shot when they can, if they can.
Yeah, look, Steve, again, there's too many politicians, including the president, weighing in as though they're public health experts. We don't know what the rate of spread among children actually is. It was very low before. It may be up because of the Delta variant, but who's getting sick is adults, and they're spreading it among themselves. It's not children spreading it to adults. We've got a problem with children getting sicker from the Delta variant, and we have to figure out a way to protect them. But schools is one of the ways to protect them. And I know the president is trying here, but he's not an expert at this. And all it does is spread what he calls misinformation.
Sure. One thing we do know, it is spiking right now given the Delta variant. I was reading a headline this morning, I think it was in the Daily Mail. It said that down in Florida, ambulances at some hospitals have to sit in front of the hospital for hours waiting for a bed to open up because they're at capacity right now, because over the last couple of weeks, the number of hospitalizations in Florida has tripled. You've been watching this since the beginning. What's your worry about states where it is increasing like that?
Well, you've already said that. It's that hospitals are reaching capacity. That makes it much harder. The Delta variant is at least as serious as previous iterations of the virus, probably worse. But this is simple. The statistics continue to show that if you get vaccinated, you decrease your risk of hospitalization almost to zero. I'm begging people out there who are not yet vaccinated to get vaccinated, not because somebody scolds you or bullies you or shames you or marginalizes you or makes fun of you or says you can't come to this party unless you're vaccinated. None of that. Do it for your family, for yourself, and for your community. That's why.
Get the vaccine.
Do it because I asked you to, and Steve asked you to.
There you go. Get the shot, and you will not die, for the most part. That's what the science shows. Dr. Siegel, thank you very much. Read his op-ed. It's terrific. Thank you, sir. And there he would say, you're welcome. All right, coming up.
This senator has given us the gift that finally, once and for all, we can put to bed this scurrilous accusation that somebody in this great esteemed body would want to defund the police. Can we add also that every senator here wants to defund the police, believes in God, country, and apple pie?
Booker expressing his support for a resolution to block federal funding to towns or cities that defund police departments. It passed the Senate 99-0 with all Democrats voting for it. That is a look at your headlines. Brian Kilmeade, I'll send it to you.
All right, here we go, Jillian. It's been nearly 4 months since President Biden ordered the full withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan, bucking almost all his senior advisors. But over the past week, at least 8 provincial capitals have fallen to the Taliban, as Biden says the Afghan government must fight for themselves.
We trained and equipped with modern equipment over 300,000 Afghan forces, and have to come together. They've got to fight for themselves, fight for their nation. The United States, I'll insist we continue to keep the commitments we made.
But they did not keep their commitments. Therefore, it nullifies what we actually dealt with during the Trump administration. Congressman Michael Waltz, colonel in the military, now in the National Guard, serving Green Beret. Congressman, first off, the speed in which these provincial capitals are falling are stunning all observers, not you. Why is the Taliban making this progress, and what is the brutality in their wake?
Yeah, the Taliban are masters of psychological warfare. This is all the psychology, Brian. And one thing that clearly Biden doesn't understand and those around him is the Afghans could care less whether it's 2,000 American troops or 20,000 American troops. What they needed to hear is America's with you and standing with you. And what the Taliban do so masterfully, they'll take 2 bases, surround them both, overrun them both. One of them, they'll massacre everyone. The other one, they'll let everyone go. They video it and send it to the next group of army bases and say, you decide. At the end of the day, though, the Americans abandoned you, and you get to pick your fate. And by doing that, they take base after base after base because of the psychology and the psychological warfare of it all.
And they're killing women, enslaving women whose hair is exposed, goes on fire, right, and they burn them alive in their wake. Ambassador Khalilzad cut this deal. He yesterday told the Taliban to stop advancing. Do you think that'll be effective?
Yeah, I think, frankly, Ambassador Khalilzad needs to go. He needs to resign. He has clearly been wrong, and this policy that he has pushed has turned out to be the disaster that sadly many of us foretold. But to your point on, well, the Taliban will be nicer this time. These are Islamic extremist thugs. They are closely aligned with al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is going to come roaring in the wake as the Taliban reinstitute Sharia law, brutalizing women, brutalizing minorities, and executing everyone who has worked with the United States of America to stand for freedom. And the al-Qaeda, Biden's own intelligence community says al-Qaeda does intend to hit the United States again. Biden needs to reverse course, stop the slaughter, and send back in American air power.
It's basically down to Kabul, and there's a story in the Washington Post today, an all-girls school. They wonder about their fate. Sadly, they don't have to wonder. If we don't do anything, they will all be enslaved, and they will all be dead. And this was totally unnecessary. With a small force, with NATO's help, we were had not had a casualty for 18 months. It allowed these people to have additional time to do this horrible thing, according to the Taliban, and that's go to school and get used to a culture where there might be a little bit of hope. This is what is also, you also told me too, is important. It still can be saved. If you combine with the militias, the 12,500 elite forces still left with the sitting government, you can still repel Taliban like 2001, correct?
Yeah, that's right. The Taliban are out in the open now. They're exposed. And, in 2001, we had less than 100 special forces embedded with them, but they're critical for calling in American air power. Right now, Biden unexplainably has given them 1 bomber per night. That's like throwing a Band-Aid at a sucking chest wound. If we put serious American air power with a we can take the Taliban down within weeks.
I think about all you guys that suffered so much and gave so much to watch it thrown in the street because someone didn't take the time to listen to his aides. And for those people who say, well, Donald Trump put the plan in place, when has Joe Biden ever been shy about tearing up a Donald Trump plan? He does it every day, 24 hours a day. Michael, hopefully someone sane is listening to you, and we try to save these people. Thanks, Michael.